Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Growth Stories with Stellaris. Today we have Anuj. Anuj is co-founder, CEO of Livspace, also member of Stellaris Founder Network, and an active angel investor in the Indian startup community. We'll talk about Anuj's journey as an investor, how he's paying it forward to the startup ecosystem, and the trends he's interested in or excited about from a venture point of view. So Anuj, thanks for joining us. Anuj and I first met, I think, in the Bay Area in a co-working space sometime around 2014 and 15. So been closely associated with Anuj since then. Anuj, your LinkedIn profile says founder, creator, angel investor, Googler. It's a very interesting introduction. Would love to know a little bit more about your journey and how do you identify with each one of these, mentions that you have on your LinkedIn profile.
Funny that you noticed, Rahul. Firstly, thank you for letting me be a part of this, and just so proud of all the great stuff that you guys have done. And thank you for such a long friendship and all the great things that we will do in time to come. I don't know, thoda I was being creative maybe, but I think in a way I was just trying to, as we probably get more experience. I'll never say we'll get older, but as you get more experience, you sort of tend to become more self-aware in the kind of things and characteristics that you identify yourself with. So you would argue that we probably have all of these characteristics all our lives, but maybe as I was sort of towards the end of my Google journey and the beginning of this journey, I was just trying to identify what are the kind of things that are my, discerning, defining characteristics and things that I'm particularly proud of, I would say. And then, so in that sense, hopefully the list is never complete and I can add more interesting adjectives and characteristics to it. So yeah, but net, I think I don't just see founder as a founder of a company or founder of a, internet startup and so forth and so on. I think the founder characteristic is very important. There is, I think that it's you need to have a vision and the ability to break down that vision into the day-to-day and the time to come and so forth and so on, and the ability to sort of I think instill inspiration and trust and then belief in people who back you, whether it's customers and shareholders, employees, family, and so forth and so on. So that's the way I sort of think about life, that there are many founding initiatives that we will do, and I think God willing, inshallah, we'll always be a great founder. Right? So.
No, amazing. Would love to know, Anuj, are there certain childhood experiences that helped you as a founder, as a creator, or who you are today?
Yeah, actually, Rahul, it's a brilliant question you asked, actually. And I was, sort of thinking about it that, just as an anecdote, in fact, most of the time that I interview, and I do like to interview, a lot of people that are trusting their career and their time with us or giving their time to us. I think I'm very interested fundamentally in understanding really the first 15, 17 years of their lives more than anything, because, the system is such that it's a machine and, by the time they get to talk to us, obviously they're very talented individuals. So, but I've actually seen that value system is very crucial, and success is not only just determined by, your capability. I think success is largely and mostly now determined by value system and EQ and so forth and so on. So I think my first 15, 17 years in the same light, if I were to sort of interview me, and the kind of things that I'll unravel would be I always had a very good left, right, and maybe that's how I was born. So in that sense, it was not just all hard work, but I love to play. And when I say play, it's like extracurriculars and friendships and travel and things to learn. So I still enjoy a lot of that. And I think my lifestyle and kind of things which are above and beyond work is just very, very important to me. And I think that's how I maintain some degree of integration between work and life. It's just vital. So even if I go back, I think I learned to balance. I was very good at academics, as all of us are. But I think, my friends will actually come and tell you that I was very naughty and, heavily into extracurriculars and always trying to sort of reinvent and hack life and hustle and so forth and so on. I think that, Rahul, is vital. The second thing is just so crucial that Um, I think in particular, which I've sort of never talked about, actually my mother, who, as you know, is no more, and we sort of lost her, unfortunately, during COVID. And now that, you step back and you realize one thing which she actually instilled in me was to be utterly fearless. So, and I think maybe that's how she was, right? So you don't realize these things when you're a kid, but being fearless is so vital when you're actually building a large company, because there's so many obstacles, there's so many challenges, right? There's so many pitfalls that you have to navigate through while building sort of a large built to last institution. So I'd say those things, being fearless and having a large vision, but generally sort of having the balance left right to be able to not only just intellectually break apart a problem, but just emotionally and instinctively break apart a problem. I think it's just maybe what characteristics I remember from my childhood.
Interesting. So balanced, fearless, two very important characteristics as a founder also. Now, if you look back, you started Livspace somewhere around 2014-15. Over last few years, are there other characteristics also that, as we have evolved, you feel have been crucial and something that you've developed over last 5-6 years, building a large business of your own?
Yeah, I think so. I think Rahul is vital to, as they say, right? Like return on time is important to might as well hit for the fences. So right. So I mean, there's no two thoughts that, and you remember from our earlier conversations because you were really our first backer. Like I always had stars in my eyes, right? So I really, and now that it is what it is, we are building the most important company in our space on the planet. Like that I never only planned to build it for one geography, and we were clear that we will never do that. And we were probably one of the first companies to actually start a meaningful business outside India, and it's doing extremely well, growing very quickly, growing in a very efficient way. So I think one thing which I learned more is the disciplined way to sort of think very, very, very big. I think that was something that I learned along the way. The other thing is just the balance between judgment and intuition, right? I think because you're sort of kind of operating in an unknown world, you always need to be need to be self-aware, but you need to have very good, solid judgment and intuition so that you can kind of follow along. It's always your guiding light in a good day and a bad day. You need to sort of come back, and I think surrounding yourself with, which is true largely about life, but I think when you're building a company, just the ability to surround yourself with people with the right intent, the right judgment, who are backing you and your vision and sort of the operating cadence, which means your investors, shareholders, family, friends. I tend to think of my employees and people who've chosen to, and that our retention rates are unbelievable. The quality of talent at Livspace is, my goodness, world class. And it's all those great people that have chosen to trust their time in us. They're investing with their time. And I think as you grow older, you realize that time is the most important thing that you have, and to have choice is the most important power. So people who have choice and whose time is expensive are choosing to trust that with us. So I kind of learned to treat that and take that with a lot of responsibility.
Interesting. And a lot of businesses, startups in India are execution heavy, but I think yours is a business which can get as execution heavy as it can be.
Yep.
How did you go about solving that particular problem? And I remember there were a lot of questions from next round investors around that particular piece. Yep. But how have you, scaled use of technology? Where all had it been able to help you as you've scaled up the business?
Yeah, I think Rahul, firstly, and you remember we've had this conversation over the years, that I think we thought about the problem in its flipped way, right? We thought about the supply side definition of the problem as opposed to get too hassled about demand side. And my business, and this is not just true about my business in India, but my business the world over tends to be a supply side disorganized, supply side fragmented, sort of kind of an industry. So stitching together the schema for that industry, I think, was our first innovation. To be fair, I don't think apart from us, anybody's thought about this problem in as much depth, probably across the world, right? So the ability to break down the problem into its constituents parts in a very fine-grained way, I think, was vital. And I think maybe RK and remember Modi, Saurabh, me, Vati, all those initial crew. I think we were very logical and very good problem solvers. So you thought about it from a very first principle approach, and if you can't do that, you will not be able to build the best product for it. So I think we were just trying to be good quality product managers, I think, So in breaking down the problem in a very fine grained way. So we, without any ego or emotion, could actually see the problem in its fine grained way, and then could stitch the value proposition for the marketplace partners. And of course, the journey took us time to be able to even understand what we're saying. Hindsight is 2020, so I can be eloquent about it. But I think in our case, we really kind of got the company together. I would still say probably by the end of 16, right? The first 18 to 24 months. This is a complex idea. It's a complex piece of technology, and we're still coding, we're still building, we're still digitizing. But I think the relentless focus on supply side definition and using that as the PRD for the platform that you're actually architecting, the supply chain that you're digitizing, and the value proposition then you're creating for the marketplace partners. I think that was what sort of set us apart, really.
Interesting. And if there was one challenge, which was let's say the biggest challenge in your 7-8 year journey, what was that, and how did you overcome that?
And maybe it's true about all marketplaces, right? But since Rahul, it's a full stack marketplace, and there are three sort of participants. There's the consumer, the homeowner. There's a design seller, sort of sometimes technically trained, sometimes a design enthusiast, and there is this ginormous fragmentation of brands and contract manufacturers, contractors, and so forth and so on, OEMs and whatnot. In any marketplace, especially in a three-way marketplace, the bottleneck moves quickly, right? So, and more often than not, I think we are lucky that in our system, supply continues to be a bottleneck, right? So the faster you organize the supply side, and I include design as design supply to that extent, and I'm making an economic term, right? Economic statement. So my business is continuously about, and the challenge and the opportunity in the business is actually about continuously investing in creating the best possible supply side fundamentals. The demand is infinite. There's so much demand, it doesn't really matter, right? So we are still like, I don't know, 1% of the market share. So how does it even matter? So the continuous investment in architecting and enabling that best possible supply using technology and supply chain digitization principles, creating playbooks and templates, and using technology that tend to scale well. I think that is the challenge of this business. That has always been the challenge of this business, and that continues to be the opportunity. I mean, that's the business that we've actually built out. So that's why we were the ones that scaled and nobody else could, right? So.
Interesting. And what would be top 3 decisions that you think change the course of Livspace business?
I think the first one, Rahul, besides having you as my friend.
You're being gracious here, but yes, I'll take it.
That was we've had a lot of choice, and we are lucky that all the rounds get so much interest, which is lovely. And everybody's become a friend now, as you know, we're all friends. But I think having, I think the first set of backers is very, very important, especially in my idea, because this was a pioneering idea. Nobody had done it anywhere in the world. Which template do we follow, right? So to actually have the first set of sort of friends and partners who are actually literally backing your vision and letting you build it the right way, I think is very, very important. So I think that was a very, very, very important decision. And I think in that same line, I think making sure that as we were transitioning from a product market fit to a scaled out company to a growth stage, to a company that is now replicating across geographies, to now the platform is replicating into multiple businesses. I think along that journey, having that partner, the set of friends, trusted shareholders and whatnot, and employees and I think we've made very good quality decisions. So I think pivotal decisions. I think secondly, Rahul, it has always been, I think we really think technology first, not technology for the sake of technology, but I think we continue to still think with the same purity and empirical sort of feel about the business that we were in 15, 16, sort of 17 days. So I think that continues to be, to invest in that thought is the second extremely important and pivotal decision. And you will see the same energy in the company and across the teams. And I think the third one really it was a bold call. I don't think anybody had done it. So to that extent, there was a lot of conviction and belief. And I always felt that the idea that we were creating has legs beyond India, right? So I was the one to say, because, I'd spent so much time outside, and I'd always say that, there's literally no difference between Kansas and Kanpur. I'm from Kanpur, right? Or from there to that extent. Because this market is actually, oddly, nobody has seen technology, right? And now that it's been proven, is fine. But I think an extremely important decision was our ability to take the business outside India, right? And to use the platform principles to actually build the business on top of that, which is why, my business in Singapore, Southeast Asia, and the GCC, I think, mark my words, Livspace, there's a point in time in an upcoming year when we'll be a 50% business outside India, and
Wow.
over time, even more and more and more. And India itself is growing at ginormous pace, right? So that's the power of, I think, the idea that it was a bold one, but you have to go with your instincts, right, at some point in time. And
Oh,
I'm
very
very
interesting.
thankful to the shareholders and the board to actually back us at that point in time, and hence the first decision is very, very vital. If you want to build an impactful company that is going to be an extremely important company in time to come, you have to have the backers, because you'll make big decisions at
Hmm.
various points in time, right? So important set of decisions.
You made an interesting point on going global. Actually, a lot of founders we meet today have global ambitions. Are there, top one or two key do's and don'ts that you suggest to them if they come to you for advice?
Yeah. So first one is the first market that you go outside your first market. So if the startup, like us, if it started in India, your first market, you're literally rebuilding the company. It
Hmm.
always happens. It happened with me in Google, and I was lucky that I was part of an entity for like almost close to a decade, as you know, and built multiple businesses, starting with the US. But I remember not only just in Livspace, but even in Google, the first time, Rahul, yaar, when we used to go outside the US market, it was literally like building the business all over again. So that principle always holds, right? So
Hmm.
first, which means how do you guard against failure, right? So I think the two things are very, very crucial. So I think my two tips would be, yeah, scale playbooks. It's very, very important. So you have to make sure that you're, and when I say platform, I don't just mean the technology and the code. When I say platform, I mean the playbook and the digitization of your supply side fundamentals, the organization structure, all the DNA that you would have created in the first market, the ability for you to actually identify those templates and make sure that you have a good instinct on the market that you're taking it out to. Do some early experiments. As I said, first market will need its product market fit. So you do the same things. You do a lot of experiments.
Hmm.
Initially, you do things that don't scale that well, such that you find the things that scale that really well, and then you scale them. I think that's the second. The third tip, Rahul, is that I see many of my portfolio companies or
Hmm.
other sort of fellow entrepreneurs. I'm sort of intrigued when they make the decision. They actually almost import a person from India outward. I don't think that works really well. I think the launcher should be from India or the first market, and we learned that at Google as well, by the way. That the launch team is actually okay to come from, because they understand the ethos and the culture and the platformification of the idea. But the operator, the founder
Hmm.
of that, has to come from the local market, right? Because so I think we, having gone through that experience, if you remember, and I think we've talked about this, Ravi was at Grab Strategy, McKinsey before that. So he's kind of the unnamed co-founder of the Singapore Southeast Asia business. And very similarly, we actually we've launched the GCC business and so forth and so on. So my principle is that you need to have a launcher team that is very close to the playbook creation ethos, but you need to have an operator that actually understands deeply the local market. So.
Interesting. And you are a busy guy, having built a large company. I'm sure there are personal life commitments. How, and there are people who still, there are a lot of founders who look up to you for what you've done. How do you, or in what areas are you able to pay it forward to some of the upcoming founders?
So to that extent, it's actually two ways, right? I think, and the one of the key principles, and I don't know if we ever talked about it, but I remember when I started the company along with RK,
Hmm.
both of us are lazy IITians, right? Like, so I think it's a common trait. So we would always say, "यार हमको अपने आप को सबसे जल्दी fire कर देना." And
Hmm.
it's a Larry Page principle. That's why I love him. He's my most favorite entrepreneur, besides being a key architect of my life. So Larry used to say, "Fire yourself," huh? And it's a very
Hmm.
bold statement, because it's very hard. It's hard to let go. So the trait is, how do you hire people who are smarter than you, and you enable them and get out of their way, because they'll create capacity in your life, right?
Hmm.
So I think the fun thing that happened with Livspace, and I think, was that over the few years, I'm a relentless pursuit of firing myself and firing my leaders from all the things that they're doing right now, such that we can do interesting, bigger things, right? So as more space got created, Rahul, I think I'm a curious kind of guy, so I like learning. So my attempt at paying it forward is also to kind of receive it back. So when I'm investing in all of these companies, I think it is not just I mean, life is fine. It's not that returns and all that. It's like you're actually curious. You're trying to understand what is happening in the industry beyond yours. So one way that I actually pay it back is by learning from others. And then I think I continue to be an active sort of angel investor in multiple geographies. Less US now, but wherever I can get a chance, I try to be maybe participate with some funds and whatnot. But Southeast Asia and India are sort of very, very active. I think that's one. I think in time to come, I really I'm keen, Rahul, to see um, the collective power of sort of entrepreneurship in sort of this part of the world. I think there is arguably a passion wherein all of us can come together and sort of move the needle forward on lots of things. Like I think female empowerment, female education, female entrepreneurship. There's so many interesting things that we guys can kind of collectively manage, and not only just because we are who we are, but I think we've all gone through 5, 6, 7 years of tough and exciting journeys. So there's so much like learning that we guys have in the body of entrepreneurs and the early sort of employees, the investment ecosystem. But I'm just passionate about doing some of those things, in time to come when there's more bandwidth in life.
Interesting. And there are lots and lots of different startups we see. What would be top 2 or 3 investment trends that excite you?
I like I like blockchain and Web3 more than I like crypto. I mean, of course, I've done a few crypto, but I think blockchain and Web3 is sort of re-architecting the internet in a sense. And I've seen sort of the story happen at least twice. Like once in the kind of Web1, you could argue, which is more Google and that Facebook era, and then the mobile internet, which is sort of more 2007 to a little bit now, and all the stuff that is sort of happening. And I think platform shifts that will happen once in a bit. When they happen, they change everything. And I think this is a little bit of a platform shift. I don't think everybody understands. So we'll do a lot of like wrong things, but this is going to stay. Like I observe how my little girl, my daughter, as you met her, how she shops and how she consumes content, how they build trust on digital mediums. It's a fundamental shift from how I operate or people who are 10 years younger than me operate, right? So I think that's a vectoral shift. So I'm very excited about ideas that are doing path-breaking things with those types of technology. I think we barely scratched the surface on B2B. I'm very excited about B2B. So things that are exciting, because I understand that as well, right? That's the gig that we've done with Livspace, or interesting things at Google, RK at Myntra and whatnot. So I think B2B and B2B disruption is interesting. I think the third thing, Rahul, is that I think fundamentally we've now gotten to a level where both in SaaS and in sort of biomedicine, biochemical, I think India not only has the understanding but the talent now, right? So talent at the right cost. So I think SaaS and new pharma are areas that really excite me. I've not seen too much stuff in new pharma, but I'd be exciting to learn. But SaaS, I think, is very, very, very exciting. We've done a few things. We've been lucky to partner with lots of great companies, Lambda, Pixis, and so forth and so on. But very excited about India becoming the SaaS sort of SaaS infrastructure of the planet, and just being able to participate in that.
Very nice. So Anuj, this has been amazing. Let me end this discussion with some rapid fire questions, quick answers to quick questions. One thing you could do differently about Livspace?
I would start a content business well before I started. My mistake.
Got it. Your favorite book?
Do hai, if you'd allow. So 0 to 1, which is most everybody's favorite book. But the second one, Rahul, and I recommend if you haven't read it already, it's by PM Lee Kuan Yew, who's the founder of Singapore, and it's called From Third World to First World. By Jove, yeah, Lee Kuan Yew built Singapore. You read it like a founder. So all the founders who are hearing, it's a fat book. So you can cheat your way and do a Wikipedia summary or listen to a YouTube this thing. But upon my recommendation, this guy, what a visionary, right? He architected Singapore like a startup. And look at it in 50 years, what a beautiful, so much to learn from his journey. Right?
Definitely, I'll go through it. I know you and RK have a special relationship as co-founders. One trait that you would want in an ideal co-founder?
yeah, like a trusted friend, it's because journey difficult hoti hai. So, you sometimes, so you don't have to lose faith in each other, I think. So I think trust and friendship is just extremely vital. And RK and I both, and us, we are very logical with each other. So I think logic above all prevails, and it's still it's still the same. Thank God for that.
One trait you want in your investor?
And I think I was talking about it, right? So I think, given the fact that this idea is, and the vision is large, and the idea is nuanced, I think a trait which is consistent across all the friends that have trusted to partner with us has been just deep belief in our vision, and the ability to have the I think the wisdom and the support and the candor, objective candor, to be able to just help us in that operational journey. I think those two are faith बहुत important होता है, faith and intent coming from your partner, right? So.
And the last question, one thing that you like doing outside Livspace?
Oh my God, a lot. So I'm a spiritual traveler. So like a lot of people like traveling, but when I travel somewhere, and I think this is my love for all things geography and history when I was a kid. So I used to get straight up 100 on 100 in geography and history in class.
That's a difficult one to get 100 on.
Yeah, can you imagine, right? So most people are like throwing up when they hear about these topics, right? So with no offense to people who like it or people who teach, because who knows how this is about it, but in my case, yeah, I was like I was passionate about both of these. So I'd conjured up all these images in my head about countries and geographical features and historical events and all that. So when I actually travel, by the time I've left the country, I would understand it spiritually and extremely deeply. So I think that's one. I'm a good musician, yeah, but I don't get a chance. I used to play in the band in IIT. I was in the band in LBS. I want to invest a lot of time in being in music mixing. I like EDM.
Interesting. No, this is amazing, Anuj. We learned so much about you, from a musician to a traveler to a founder to an investor. Thanks for taking time. This was really great talking to you, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Rahul. Hamper घर में भिजवा देना.
Great. See you.
Lovely talking.